Hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday, I guess it is now. We're so excited to be in this group of wonderful men and women bringing some financial education topics. My name is Maggie, and I am a partner at Purse Strings. At Purse Strings, we're all about bringing free financial education, trusted resource where you can get your questions answered. But then we know education can only take you so far, and you need a professional to kind of wrap things up, get things in transition, or start that transaction. So we have top tier financial professionals who are ready and willing and able to help you, and they'll give you the best service you need. Really serve that female market, especially. And so today we are just bringing some education to you with Kristen, who's one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So Kristen, welcome. We're so excited to have you on today.
Good morning. Thank you.
And today we will be talking about, having that conversation around money with your partner or with anybody else, your ex, a spouse, a friend. This can really apply to any kind of relationships you would have. But before we dive into all that, Kristen, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and, just the work that you do. Little intro.
Hi, everyone. So I'm the founder of Financial Moxie. We actually have two locations, one in the Midwest in Iowa and one here in Southern California. I'm actually in Southern California at the office, and we specialize. I'm a certified financial planner and also a certified divorce financial analyst. And we take pride in going beyond just the traditional financial planning. We service all levels of individuals, and we really focus on that planning side and helping you build that self-confidence so that you can take control of your financial self and future. We do have, we're women only company right now. We do have all women staff. It just kind of happened that way. But I do work with a lot of couples who are not on the same page. So this is where a lot of this conversation is going to come from, is experience, not so much psychology or psychology. It's actually experience of working with different individuals on how to improve their financial, communication with themselves and others.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you talk to so many different men and women and couples throughout your day, and really have a ton of hands-on knowledge about how to improve this communication after seeing it time after time again. So diving right in, what is financial communication?
So financial communication, it goes into all different areas, and really it's about, you have to figure out what your purpose is and what direction you want to go in. I mean, it's not always about just how to retire. Some people, don't necessarily want to retire. So everyone has their own journey. But like anything in the world today, there's just so much information accessible online, word of mouth from others' opinions, and what's suitable for somebody who is suggesting something to you that, a friend, may not be suitable for your situation. And so it does become quite overwhelming. And then what I'm trying to prevent is that you just avoid it, because if the conversation is so difficult or hard to have in the beginning, even in the smallest circumstances, if you get yourself into that position, like Maggie and I were talking before we came on, people tend to just throw in the towel very early and give up. And it, the process of communicating about your financial journey and your financial self, it is cumulative, and there has to be patience, because things do happen and then they add up, and then you get to where you need to be. Kind of like, for lack of better terms, like if you go on a diet or you're trying to exercise, right? When you're exercising, you've heard that theory where if you move for 5 minutes a day, you're better off than if you do one day of like 2 hours of exercise all at once. And so some people think that they get themselves into a reactive space in financial conversations where they don't talk about it unless there's an extreme need at the moment. And what we're trying to do is shift that mindset so that you take these little steps and you celebrate those little steps to get to where you want to be. So it's not so reactive. It's more proactive type of conversation.
It almost reminds me of going to the doctor and getting your physical every year. Right. Or like going to the dentist, because you go every time, just make sure everything's preventative. Just because if you don't come in 6 years, it might just be all these things that you never caught, never handled, and now it's a much bigger project.
Right. And financial, when we talk about financial communication, it's a series of, if you break it down to the core, it's like a series of decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And every decision you make can change the outcome slightly. And so whenever I work with clients on how to communicate with a spouse or a partner or a family member, it's really trying to figure out, what each person's need is and come in the middle. It's much like if you're negotiating or mediating settlement, right? But each person has to find that success point, right? A progress point to move forward. And if they can't achieve that success, just like if you work out and you don't see results, or you're on you take a diet and you don't see results, you just give up. And unfortunately, that's what happens with a lot of couples, or when you engage with family members. It's too hard to get to that middle ground. And that's where advisors that are trained like myself to help you find that middle ground can help you push through that. It's not easy. I'm not going to say I'm not going to claim it's easy. And it's hard work. But just like anything, if you work hard, you should, see the reward or the success over time. You have to be patient. You do have to be patient because it doesn't happen overnight.
Hard work, it pays off, but it is hard work. And so for this financial communication, there's many different forms of financial communication. I know you're mentioning, there's communication with yourself about money, communication with your families or your peers. Can you dive into that a bit more and explain these different types of financial communication?
Sure. So they're types or levels or whatever you want to call them. But I mean, because we live in this world now where you can get all this information at once, and you can actually make a phone call and talk to different people about financial situations readily. You don't have to really go through an intermediary person to get to that point. So I like to break it down and keep it as simple as possible. So, there's the conversation with yourself, which is super important. You have to be comfortable with yourself and your financial self and your self-confidence. And so, all wrapped up in that is your purpose, your why, and your goals. And what I'm seeing in the field right now is everyone's goals are shifting and everyone's purpose is shifting. What you thought your purpose was 2 years ago is not your purpose now. And so it's really, if you want to help someone who's struggling, finding where they need to go, it's really focusing on themselves and their purpose. It seems selfish, but it's really the core of that conversation. Then the next level is your household. I mean, you have other members in your household. It could be spouses, partners, children, aging parents. I mean, that goes off into extended family, whether they're in your household or outside of your household. Especially in this time of the pandemic in the last 2 years and things changing, those conversations are now coming to the surface, and you can't ignore them. Like, I mean, it is really hard, I think, more so than ever, to ignore those conversations. And so helping helping, figuring out yourself first and then being able to help the extended family is a huge process, and that will make the foundation of being successful in communicating. Then the next levels are more external. So you have advisors like myself. And so you could have financial planner, certified financial planner, a CPA, a state planner, a state attorney or state planner, a mortgage broker, insurance, and real estate. So all that list of advisors, it used to be that people would say, oh, I don't have that net worth to warrant all those advisors. But I think we've all learned through this pandemic that every single one of these advisors has a purpose, whether you have sizable net worth or not. I mean, because just an example, if you have an aging parent, the first conversation you have to have is about the estate and the plan and what their wishes are at the core. And that you would need to have external communication with an outside person to really solve that, or, to come up with a solution for that conversation. And then there's institutional. So all of us have had conversations with banking people, brokerage houses, insurance, institutions. It's during the pandemic, people had insurance policies, right? And they were holding them and they served a purpose in case something happened to them. More so than ever, people have been inquiring, well, what does this insurance policy do if I was to get sick? Or how would my family be taken care of? Or why, what should I put in place, if something happened to me? Because it's, sadly, it's something that we're all thinking about. So these conversations have accelerated. And what my concern is that the conversation is that people are feeling that overwhelming feeling. And we need to try and move that overwhelming feeling to a collaborative conversation and find those, areas that they can have the conversation, get the information they need and meet their needs. And that's where I'm really trying to focus when I work with individuals. So focus on those needs and see the successes so they won't avoid and get overwhelmed.
Definitely. It can seem like a huge thing to take on, especially when you're just getting thrown all this different information. You don't always know what is correct, but like you said before, it's not one size fits all. That's why you do need a professional to help you out, and these different professionals who have these different specialized expertise. Like you said, you have a CDFA?
Yeah. Yes.
And so that's for certified for divorce, which gives you a special niche for one topic. But I know you have many other specialties, but different professionals have different specialties depending on what you're going through or what transaction or transition you're making. So you do need that team.
Yeah, and I think people have had this belief that because if they're not multimillionaires, it doesn't warrant the conversation. But now, because of what we've all gone through in the last 2 years, I mean, it doesn't matter because things are happening fast, and things that you have to help, your family members, and you have to plan, and you still have to have that resource, right? And I'm actually optimistic because I think more so than ever now, the resources are available and accessible.
Oh, yeah.
And just like Purse Strings offers, all these advisors that, are the same in the same kind of mind space to help people. There are other organizations too that are doing that, which never really was in place before. And we're all online. So you may find an advisor in another state, as long as they're licensed in that state, that you like, and you can now see them on Zoom, or has a certain specialty, which that wasn't always the case. You were very limited on who you could engage with.
Which is awesome, because now you can engage with somebody who's really fitting, not just the guy down the street because he's close. You could really find somebody who's great for you. So yeah, I love these different financial communication kind of levels that you're talking about. And so as we kind of get through these levels, what are some takeaways we could have here from kind of knowing these financial communication levels?
Right. So, I mean, so like I said, everyone's individual, but I have like 4 takeaways I think that apply to most in people that are in this, in kind of in the heat of all of this. Um, is is you need to always celebrate even the smallest success or progress. Um, having just actually being able to talk with your spouse about a financial situation at the kitchen table is a huge win. Like, just because you weren't able to, people try to rush and say, oh, I want to be able to invest, I want to be able to save, I want to be able to do this. But it's actually, once you start the conversation, that's a huge win. If you're able to improve, like you focus on one area of your budget, let's say eating out, and you set a goal for yourself to improve your budget by $50 a month or something like that, that's a huge win and it should be celebrated. It's not, once you start accumulating these wins and successes, your mindset starts to shift and says, hey, this, financial conversation is not so crazy. And I actually like paying attention. So that's the 3 points under that celebrating the success is you want to move the conversation from avoidance to paying attention. You want to move it from being reactive to proactive. So, even the smallest areas. And then you also want to pay attention to emotional wealth. Not every decision that you make for yourself is all about the numbers. There are other factors that give you emotional wealth. You may decide to relocate to be by family because that's the emotional wealth you need. But financially, it's not, going to be the best with numbers, but it will in the long run. So you can't stop yourself from having that conversation about emotional wealth. The second takeaway is to open yourself to education. And, what is suitable for a friend or family member may not be suitable for you. You need to seek out, not be afraid to seek out unbiased opinions on different things that you may have researched. And if something presents itself, don't be afraid to look into it. I mean, we have the tools now. I mean, you can Google something and get pretty straightforward information and then vet it out easily. And it's at your fingertips. But sometimes people are in that state of avoidance that they just don't even want to Google it. so,
There's great information, but don't let it overwhelm you.
Right.
You can ask it, but then believe it after a point and cut it off because then you need to move forward. Analysis paralysis.
Right. Analysis paralysis. The other thing is, the third takeaway is utilize the tools you already have. I mean, I think people don't realize, maybe now more so in the whole pandemic because we're online, but your online banking, wherever you do online banking, some of these platforms have built in, these free tools that you don't even know are there, where you could actually see your budget real time. Some of the institutions have implemented, financial planning tips and things like that. So you can start putting your toe in the water by you don't need to buy the next app. I mean, there's so many apps coming out. You can actually distract yourself, I think, by implementing too many things on stacking too many technologies. But if you're comfortable with just looking at your online banking and exploring what that institution is offering you, you may have also tried during the pandemic, investing and using some of these robo type of platforms. Some of these financial institutions also have calculators. They have different tools that you can access. And so basically, the takeaways is just learn what you have first, and then try to add on when you see deficiencies. But start somewhere. Like you can't not afford to start somewhere. The last thing that I want to reassure everyone today is there are advisors out there like myself and plenty of other advisors and purse strings that their mission is to help you truly and help you figure out, like, move at your pace and also figure out where you need to focus, on what needs you need to focus and prioritize. So it's really, you have to make sure you find that advisor you're comfortable having that conversation with, because interview them, like go on Zoom if they're not in your local area, talk to them about what they do and how they do it. You may have been referred by a friend to another advisor, and talk to that friend. What do you like about this advisor? What is the best quality? Why do you think that this advisor has made a difference in their lives? Have that conversation. It's not awkward anymore because you can do it now. You don't have to rely on face-to-face meeting.
Yeah. I would strongly ask those questions, see if they're the right fit for you. Cause sometimes these money conversations are vulnerable and so it's like, find somebody that's really going to listen to you. If you have any iffy feelings, it's probably not it. But yeah, it's not, you can ask them questions, which a lot of people don't know, but it is an interview. It's a match, which, we have to take that ability and spend where we feel fit. So yeah, great. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. And so, when you look at an advisor too, you be mindful of whether the person is a fiduciary, which means that they're acting in your best interest, right? It's not all about what products, produce what type of payouts and things like that. It's basically trying to figure out what is in your best interest truly. So ask the question, is the person or advisor a fiduciary, or do they have a fiduciary standard? You'll be surprised, because there are mortgage brokers, and there are other mortgage brokers have a certain level of fiduciary. They do have a certification to become fiduciaries. And I didn't know, because I thought it was only for financial advisor space, but there are, attorneys are fiduciaries. Like, there are innately those advisors out there. You just need to seek them out. The other thing is, there is a thing in our field where a fiduciary can call themselves a financial advisor. And it was just a change with regulation that if you weren't acting in a fiduciary capacity, your title would now become financial professional. So there's a little bit of subtleties and titles that you can identify these advisors. And then it's really making sure that advisor is looking out for the suitability for you. Like what is suitable for your situation? Because like I said, not every investment, not every financial conversation is suitable for the same person. And I think now, because it used to be that not used to, but people didn't talk about their financial situations. But now, because we're in this environment that everybody is talking about everything, it's not odd. I think it's not odd for your friend to say, hey, I was recommended this investment. You should check it out. Or I was recommended the CPA, and, he's suggesting that I do a Roth conversion or some sort of strategy, but it may not be right for you. So you need to make sure you have the team or the advisor, at least an advisor, you can make a phone call to say, hey, does this make sense for me? And don't be afraid. I guess that's the whole thing. Like, Maggie and I want to make sure everyone knows is it shouldn't be you shouldn't have fear.
There's no fear.
Conversation. It should be about you and and your need. It shouldn't be scary. It should not be intimidating. If it is, then you're not in the right place. You're not with the right person, or you're not talking to the right resource.
Definitely. Those were all wonderful points that you made there. Yeah, you wouldn't be talking to the right person if this is making, if you're too anxious to do this, because I think some people think they're going to come in and be told, oh, well, let me look at your stuff. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that, which is not the whole plan. We're working with what we got. We're living the life that we want to live, and working with people who are their whole goal is to help empower us and live our best lives, which is awesome to meet more people who really want the best for you. I think that's great.
Yeah. And so it happens. It will happen once you find the right team and the right collaborative environment. you will start to see yourself wanting to have that conversation. You will start to see yourself looking and Googling actually something that you've always wondered about. And those are the signs, like when I'm working with a client, those are the signs to me that that person is feeling comfortable, is feeling empowered, is self-confident in that space. And that just says volumes, just those types of participations. I mean, I will share with you. I mean, I've been working with a couple now online for, I think it's a bit before, it was 2 years before the pandemic. They've gone through all these phases in life, where they had a kid in college. They had, career changes during the pandemic. They had all kinds of shifts and pivots. And, I just met with them for end of year, and they said for the first time they're able to, because they've actually, it's not happened overnight. It's the first time in their whole marriage that they've ever been this to a point of debt free, like have their credit cards paid off, being able to maintain on their income, and actually looking forward to retiring in 10 years, And so, but that was a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of us having conversation, this type of financial conversation on the regular, and actually going through these transitions together, and then seeing the rewards. But it didn't happen overnight, and kudos to them, because they didn't give up. Right. And there was a lot. I mean, they had deaths of parents during this time, and all this stuff. And there was a lot of things that they could have said, hey, this is just too much for me, and gave up. Right. So I just want everyone to be encouraged to take the first step, because it does help. It will help with feeling that success. It's just not overnight. I mean, that might be a Debbie Downer, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Most great things don't happen overnight.
Right.
That's just the way it is. But all good things take this hard work, take some wonderful professionals, take us a little elbow grease. And so a great first step could always be just calling up Kristen or sending her an email to get in contact, just start a conversation and see how it goes. Just dip your toe in the water. And so, Kristen, what's the best way for people to reach out to you and set up a time to connect or to talk?
So we have a website. It's financialmoxie.com. And on there's a benefits page. I went during the pandemic, I went through a process of kind of taking all of this out of my head, and the programs that I've actually, created for people and customized for people, and put them down on the website, so that people could actually see, that these programs are available, what's included. Anything that you see there, I can customize and I can tweak and I can change, or I can add things to it based on their need. But at least the core programs are there, and price points and things like that, to give you an idea of what to expect. I always offer a 1 hour complimentary type of session, where I call it like the get to know session. So you get to know me, I get to know you, make sure this is a fit. And even if the person decides it's not a fit, or they're not ready to engage, I always take pride in, giving resources. If I hear there's a need and I have a resource, I'm going to give that to that person in that first hour. And yeah, we have a team ready to have the conversation with you as well. And you can make an appointment on the website, or you can call in, and they'll schedule an appointment for you, and we can do it in person or virtually. I mean, most everything is virtually right now.
Yes. So. Awesome. So that's easy to get in touch. She's also a Purse Strings approved professional, so you could check out her webpage on our site, pursestrings.co. So we appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll be back again next month with some more great easy one topics that we can go through with our approved professionals. So thank you again, Kristen, for coming on today, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.